Hey there friends and enemies, Jopa here again, and with Borderlands 4 officially confirmed to be dropping in 2025, I want to go through my top 10 things I hope to see in the game at launch. Now, your list might be different from mine, so if there's anything I missed, let me know in the comments down below, but I'm going to start off with number 1, and that is seamless co-op farming. One of my biggest frustrations with the Borderlands franchise is it feels like it's behind the times when it comes to playing the game co-op, and that's something that has been incredibly frustrating for me as a looter shooter player who does like to jump in with friends, especially when you're trying to farm bosses or named enemies and you have to essentially disband your group and go back to the main menu every time you try to restart the farm. I hope there's a more seamless way, whether it's having the bosses be on a cooldown or having a switch to activate or something that allows you to respawn the boss or named enemy, some way to reactivate it so that way you can stay in a group and not essentially waste time and have it be far less efficient if you are playing in co-op. So that's just a personal preference. I know not everyone likes to play these games with other people, but for me, that's one of my things that I really enjoy doing. Next up is going to be having ultra rare drops in the game, whether it's pearlescence, another type of super rare weapon, armor, etc., or having the random rolls feel very rare and hard to find of legendary items as well. All of that should combine for them to feel absolutely special as drops. And that's something that I think was missing with Borderlands 3. The game felt fun. There was a lot of cool gameplay improvements and new activity types, but it did feel like the drops weren't as special because you got so many of them and you were just essentially looking at different bonuses and pluses instead of being excited when you saw a certain type of thing drop on the ground. And that is something I hope is changed with endgame of Borderlands 4. I want to see a pink drop on the ground that I'm blown away for, or red, or whatever color they decide to make it, and really know that it is going to be special. So that's something that I hope is in the game. Number 3 is raid bosses and or takedowns right when the game launches. I assume they'll add stuff like that over the course of time with DLC as well, but having a couple of these end-game activities when the game launches will be absolutely vital. I do think that target farming named enemies and bosses should also be a thing, but having variety of endgame will be important to keep the game sustained for months and weeks and whatever the case may be after launch until we do get new content with DLC as well. So I do hope that is a thing and they're able to put them into the game right when it does launch. Number 4 is going to be an upgradable base or ship, something that allows you to make progress on the game, not just with your main character as you're upgrading through better loot and obtaining new skills, but having a base or ship that you can really customize by obtaining different cosmetics, I think would be a nice touch and something we haven't really seen from Borderlands often enough. And maybe it does have some gameplay elements as well. Say you have a ship that allows you to upgrade it to carry more stuff in your bag, to have a special ability, whatever the case may be. It doesn't have to be just gameplay only or cosmetic only. It could be a mix of both. But I do think that would add a different reason to farm for items as well, on top of just them being new weapons or armor that you can get for your character. Then we are going to get into an escalating horde mode, and that is something that I feel like Borderlands could really benefit from, because I do feel like when you're perfecting your builds in Borderlands 4, unless it is a raid boss or a takedown, it feels like it's often not utilized enough to be super efficient. And not only that, but it feels like all the bosses, all of the endgame builds are specifically made for destroying enemies as quickly as possible, destroying bosses as quickly as possible. Whereas if we had an activity that has just hordes and waves of enemies and requires you to really be able to tackle them as much as possible, as quickly as possible, maybe with a leaderboard or something like that, I think it could be a cool thing to see and would really lend itself to the end game of Borderlands that is missing a bit of variety that I hope to see, as I mentioned, with the raid bosses and the takedowns as well. Having a bunch of different activities to tackle and having a variety of builds to use not only will increase build diversity, but also allow you to use different characters potentially who shine in different situations. Next up, reasons to replay the campaign. Oftentimes, it can feel frustrating when you are replaying the campaign simply because you have to in order to unlock everything as you're leveling up a new character, whether it's a new hero or whatever the case may be. I do feel like having additional reasons to replay the campaign, maybe there's secrets to find or things you might have missed or narrative choices to make that'll change up the way things characters interact with you in the end game, something like that to really allow you to replay the campaign, because a lot of time, energy, and effort is put in by the developers for the campaign, and not really having reasons to rerun that content is something that I think can be a bit frustrating. Another option will be having hard difficulty versions of specific missions. Instead of having to replay the entire campaign on Vault Hunter mode, maybe you can just select certain missions and have them be either normal or hard mode with different drops for each. So that's something that I personally would like to see. Next up, ensuring that there are named enemies with dedicated drops at launch and having them feel unique and special. Now, one of the problems at launch of Borderlands 3 was obviously not having those dedicated drops, but I also think that some of the named enemies really weren't worthwhile to kill repeatedly, so it just makes them kind of useless. Whereas if you can have the named enemies have unique rare drops, but also have a variety of ways that you have to take them down, could also be a unique way to have them in the game without really having them feel like they are wasted. I don't want too much time spent by the developers on content that you see one time and then never tackle again. So hopefully that can be avoided as much as possible with Borderlands 4. Adding on to that, and number 8 is going to be secrets to find and reasons to explore. One of the problems I often have with the Borderlands games is when you're going through and you're tackling missions, you'll have side quests and everything like that, but there's really no secrets to find, no hidden gems that you might uncover over the course of your playthrough, and there's no reason to explore every inch of the map. You take something like Remnant 2, which is obviously a different genre, but it shines with its replayability because you are encouraged to try to find every secret, hidden loot, things that you might not otherwise have noticed on a first playthrough. And I do think that is something that the Borderlands games would definitely benefit from, especially if they're not going in the direction of a live service game, because you do want to increase the replayability, and having those secrets to find will help out quite a bit. Next up is just quality of life stuff with full crossplay. Now, if the game doesn't have full crossplay at launch, I think it will be a big miss, and I hope you're able to play with your friends no matter the platform right when the game does drop, so that way that everyone can enjoy co-op, go through the campaign with their friends, etc. That's just a simple quality of life thing that I think every co-op needs in this day and age. Now, the last thing, number 10, build flexibility. This ties into some of my other numbers on the list where I talk about different types of game modes, but I do feel like Borderlands games can get stuck in having only certain builds be really viable as you are starting to min-max and get to the late game. And that's where having a variety of content, but also having the ability to mix and match as much as possible with your builds, picking from different skill trees, I think all of that lends itself to replayability because it encourages you to try different things. Something that can often be a little bit frustrating with the Borderlands games is that you just have certain builds that really shine and then other builds, other playstyles. One of the reasons I like Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is it felt like melee builds were significantly improved and you had a lot of variety there with your different characters for your builds, and that's something that you don't always see in the Borderlands games, and I hope it's something that we do have with Borderlands 4. Anyway, like I mentioned earlier, let me know if there's anything I might have missed in the comments down below. Let me know what you guys think. What are you most and least excited about seeing and hoping to see with Borderlands 4? My name is Jopa. I hope you enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe. Have a good one. I'll catch you all later.